Okay, so our next demonstration here is going to be using what's referred to as the Camphor smoke development technique. And this is almost like an antiquated system that has been oftentimes forgotten about because it's been around for such a long period of time, and people have tended to abandon certain techniques and tried new ones that they think are new and better and improved. But I stand by this technique for its usefulness and effectiveness, particularly on galvanized metal. And as I said, it's the Camphor smoke development technique. And so we've got a display here just showing you the different components that are required for doing this technique. Now, for our demonstrative purposes, we are using the lid, the metal lid here from a mason jar. Will work very effective on this, but as I said, it primarily is designed to work most effectively with galvanized metal. And when we're referring to galvanized metal, it's simply a hot dip process of molten zinc that is applied to metal as a rust inhibitor. So simply bare metal is submerged into a bath of zinc, and then it hardens and it creates this hard shell that is rust resistant. So you often see zinc plating or galvanized metal in any areas that metal is going to be exposed to high amounts of precipitation or moisture. So forensically, areas such as in vending machines that have a change box that's in there that may be subjected to ambient moisture, higher levels of moisture, it stops the change containers from rusting. Likewise, standard light posts, light standards would be galvanized metal. Fence posts, chain link fencing is usually galvanized metal as well. So you get the idea. That's the type of surface that we're talking about here. So just quickly demonstrate this or show this. This is our container of camphor. And just give me one moment here. I'm just going to put some gloves on. Or at least get them ready here because I don't have any fingerprints on the surface yet. So we're going to start off. I'm going to put prints on here first rather than doing it in the reverse order here. So again, I'm just going to put some planted fingerprints on the metal. Now I'll put some gloves on. Now ideally this technique should be done in well ventilated areas. So you would think that doing it in a venting hood would be a great idea, but the problem with it is you want the smoke that's emitted from the camphor as it's burning to actually concentrate and come in contact with where the suspected fingerprints are on the galvanized metal. But the draw that is created in the venting cabinets will actually prohibit the smoke from building and accumulating on the surface where the fingerprints are. So for this particular case, we're actually just using this as an area, as a staging area. We're going to do the development on our other display section next door, and we'll return the items as they're used back into the venting cabinet momentarily. So I have some prints that are now on this metallic surface, and let me get some camphor out. Now many of you may recognize the smell. Obviously we don't have the ability for you to smell through the camera lens, but this camphor has a distinct odor to it, and you might recognize it as being similar to the smell of Vicks Vapor Rub, if you remember that particularly as a child, if your parents rubbed it on your chest or whatever, if you had a cold. That's kind of the smell of this. There was an episode of CSI that was done years ago where Gil Grissom was investigating a crime in a jail cell, and he took the stuff and and suspect had apparently put their hands on the jail cell bars, and he took a bottle of Vicks Vapor Rub and tried to develop fingerprints, and successfully did for television purposes on the bars. So I started to think about what the application was, and yes, Vicks Vapor Rub has camphor in it, or at least now it's a simulated camphor, but they basically, as they do with many other techniques that are illustrated on that show, they manipulate them for their television purposes. Now, yes, we use camphor, but we would never use it in that application. In fact, I tried it myself, and I saw it on the television show. I went and got a jar of Vicks Vapor Rub and tried doing it, and it didn't work. But using that application of the camphor, that is what's actually being used to develop the prints. Now, the technique, as this works, is that camphor is very flammable, and it will let off a flame, it will let off a soot when it's ignited. And so it would be a kind of a controlled burn when I use the sparker here, and I'll light that up. And it will have a flame come off of it. And what the technique is simply exposing the exhibit to the flame and the soot so that the soot will accumulate on the entire surface. Once that's done, you simply use a camel hair or a squirrel hair brush and dust off the excess powder. It will not adhere as effectively to the background, but will stick primarily to where the fingerprints are and reveal them to be a soot or a black colored fingerprint. Okay, so for safety purposes, I'm just going to affix that to to a pair of tweezers. So it's going to get hot. Obviously, it's going to conduct the heat and get rather hot. So now I'm going to take the camphor and light it. And just come over here. Now, obviously, using it in the spoon, it gives for convenience purposes. But another technique would be to put the camphor into a tart dish, an aluminum tart dish. Ignite it, and then when you're finished, put some type of a bell housing like a mason jar over top of it, and all you're doing there is the flame will consume the oxygen that's in there, and it will eventually suffocate itself, so you're not actually having to blow on the camphor. So here we've got, you can see how the soot has covered the entire surface, and now I'm going to take a camel hair brush. Now at this point here, the temperature I'm sure is cooled off to the point that I can handle the item. I'm just going to lightly brush the surface in hopes of revealing the print. You can see the prints have developed. In this case here, the camphor has kind of discolored the surface of that metal slightly, but you can see the increased contrast of where the fingerprints are. That soot has adhered to it and has wiped off the background. Now, on many metal surfaces, you can simply use other techniques such as cyanoacrylate or even regular fingerprint powder, but particularly on the galvanized metal, arguably, in my belief, the camphor works superior over the other techniques. Now, from this point here, those fingerprints could just be lifted as they normally would, as if you were using regular fingerprint tape and powders. You simply mark it up with your scale and information, photograph it, apply the tape onto it, and lift it off, and the prints would come off, and you could apply it to a standard vacuum card from that point. And just to finish off with this, the camphor, you can see as it burns, it does consume, but it slightly discolors it as it's burning and changes its appearance on the outside. But this can be reclaimed and reused after the fact. So I'll just put that back in our jar here, and that can be used again on another application some other time.